Welcome into another episode of Locked On Phillies. In today's episode, we're evaluating the first half of the season, or pre-All-Star break part of the season, for every Philadelphia Phillies position player. Who's excelled, who's cold, who's got to go.
You are Locked On Phillies, your daily Philadelphia Phillies podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, this is Locked On Phillies. I'm your host, Connor Thomas. Thank you so much for joining us today. We come to you as part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. You may know me from some of my other work in the sports talk space. So I've been on air over at 97.5 The Fanatic, doing sports talk radio here in Philadelphia for close to 6 years now. I've been a credentialed Philadelphia Phillies media member for 4 seasons, and this is also my 4th year as the host of Locked On Phillies. Please make sure that you're rating and reviewing if you're checking us out in podcast form. You can get Locked On Phillies wherever you get your podcasts. You can also get us on YouTube if you want to watch the show, and if you do that, hit that subscribe button. It'll get you notifications when new episodes are posted. It's free and easy. It really helps us out here on Locked On Phillies. Today's episode is brought to you by Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONMLB at monarchmoney.com, and you'll get 50% off your first year. So today, it's the position players. Our next episode will be the pitchers, but we're splitting this up. Roster splits right down the middle. We're going with the active roster. We're grading out, letter grade, how these guys have done in the pre-All-Star break portion of the Philadelphia Phillies schedule. So I'm going to refer to it as the first half. I know it's not the first half, right? I know they're more than halfway done the season. Just bear with me. It's easier that way. And I know some of these guys have not had great years. Some of them have. We're going to look at it really, and you see the breakdown. If you're watching on YouTube, there's a little graphic here that's always on like the border of the episode. You can see it. Let me see if I can point the right direction. I can't. I'm very bad with figuring that out with the reverse camera. But it's on my right side from my view. Your right side as well. And it's not necessarily in order. So we're not going to break this down by like who excelled, who's cold, who has to go. We're going to go in order of how the roster is listed. So we'll have some good players mixed in with some bad players. And we're going to try and break down, have a candid conversation about every single one of these players. This will be the entirety of the episode. So let me know in the YouTube comments who you're agreeing with, who you're not agreeing with. I think more often than not, as we discussed in yesterday's episode, the Phillies have underachieved. Now, underachieved is based on the standard of the team. Like they've overachieved if this was the Colorado Rockies. If this was the Dodgers, they've massively underachieved. If this is the Phillies, which they are, they have underachieved. But there are individuals that have overachieved. There are individuals that are on par. And then there are some that are dragging the rest of the team down. Who is that with the position players? And are there any guys that need to basically get out of town with the All-Star break just about done and the trade deadline at the end of the month of July? It's important to evaluate who is expendable and who is, a guy you want to get rid of. Not even expendable. You're trying to throw him out. We'll see. But let's start because on MLB.com, it leads off with the pitchers. And then right under the pitchers, we'll do the pitchers tomorrow's episode. Catchers are up first. And the first name listed is young Rafael Marchán. And Marchán, man, has he gotten away with a tough season, right? He has been majorly disappointing. And maybe this says, the reaction to Rafael Marchán says more about Garrett Stubbs and how the fan base feels about him than it says about Rafael Marchán. Bear with me for this. Okay, Marchán was this guy. We looked at JT and we said, okay, well, JT Realmuto, he's not going to be able to play as many games as he has at previous points in his career. We're trying to find a backup catcher that is more valuable, that you can sit JT to keep him fresh for the postseason because it looked like he really dropped off end of the year 2024. And this year, Marchán has not done that at all. He's been rough, man, like really, really rough. Not just behind the dish because he hasn't been terrible behind the dish, but he's batting 167. That ain't good enough. 5 RBIs, 1 homer. And I know JT wants to play every day, but Rafael Marchán has been terrible. He gets a, D minus? Like he's sneaky been the worst player that's been on this team all year. And I'm not trying to like unnecessarily crush him. He just gets covered up because we don't really look at the backup catcher position. And because people want Garrett Stubbs off this baseball team so bad. He's been really bad. Maybe there's upside because, again, like he's still a young guy in terms of his major league career. So I don't want to kill him. You're not relying on Rafael Marchand to win you a World Series, but you were relying on him to save some time for JT, and he has not done that. Let's go to JT Realmuto, who's going to be a sneaky tough guy to grade because since the start of June, he's hitting over 300. But he had such an abysmal start to the season that the numbers don't look great. He's only got 5 home runs. The power is the thing of the past for JT Realmuto. But he's batting .268 right now. He's got 32 RBIs, which is not ideal. 5 stolen bases, which shows you the speed, the power, the athleticism. Like it's dropping off, and that happens for a guy who is aging, right? I mean, listen, he's been around for a while, so he's not exactly getting younger, and we know that that's going to weigh on the ability to play throughout the season. But batting .268 at the All-Star break, I don't know that I can give him what I would have given him a month ago. He's been tearing the cover off the ball recently. It bothers me that every ball that he hits seems to be right at the shortstop for a near double play or over the shortstop for what would have been a double play if he had gotten on top of it. But if you really evaluate JT Realmuto's year, I think I'm going to give him a C. I'm going to give him a passing grade, maybe even a C+ as of where we are lately, because I'd rather see more consistency. He is still batting down near the bottom of the lineup. He hasn't shown the power. He hasn't shown the speed. But you can't get mad at a catcher batting .268. You just can't get mad at it. I'm sorry, but he's been better than a lot of people give him credit for. Well, we'll go with the C+ for JT Realmuto. You'd expect better overall, but the numbers you can't argue with. Next, we're on to the infielders. Alec Bohm is the first one listed here. And this is alphabetical order by first name or last name. I don't even know how MLB puts it up. But Alec Bohm's season, he's been pretty darn good, guys. He had just an abysmally bad start to the year, and everybody wanted to give up on him. I see, this is why we should have traded him. He's slamming his helmet. He's mad. This guy stinks. He shouldn't be on the baseball team. How did Dave Dombrowski not get rid of the guy? He's batting .281 at the All-Star break. 8 home runs. He's never going to show pop. If you're looking for that, you're crazy still. That might annoy you. At this point, just accept who he is. He's a pretty solid, good hitter at the major league level. He can contribute. And in the back middle of a lineup, he's not going to have the power. He's going to get on base. He's going to drive in runs. He's got 42 RBIs already. He may get that if he heats up late and stays this hot, right? This is all with a very cold start to the year. He may push into the high 80s of RBIs when everything's all said and done. I think for what this team needs Alec Bohm to be, he's been pretty darn good. I'm going to give him a B, an even B for the season. Defensively, he's been solid. He had a long stretch without an error, which is something you never would have believed of him earlier on in his career. He's been sneaky one of the better players on this team for a while now, and that abysmal start to the year is all but forgotten for Phillies fans. But I don't think we've totally lauded him to the level that we should. Bohm's been good. He gets a B. Bryce Harper, tough guy to evaluate because this wrist injury throws a wrench into who he's supposed to be. And the expectation for Bryce Harper is so much higher than every other player on this team, right? It will never be close. It is him and then everybody else. And that's the way that it should be. And that's what happens when you become the face of a franchise. Batting .261 with 10 home runs, 35 RBIs. He's only got 253 at-bats because he missed time with that wrist injury, missed a handful of weeks there. And we don't know what he's going to be going forward. So with all of that factored in, I can't give him more than like a C+, I guess. Now, this is a C+ where you look at the student. Like, let's pretend we're teachers for a second. This is a student where you're like, I know that you're capable of doing more than that. And some of this may be out of control. It's like you got a kid that's out sick a bunch of days, and he ends up missing a bunch of homework assignments. You're like, I can't give you a B. I can't give you an A because you haven't been here. And I know if you had, well, you'd have better grades. But I got to grade you fairly. I got to give Bryce Harper like a C based on expectations and based on what he needs to be for this team. Now, he hasn't failed this team, no, but he hasn't carried this team. He's not in the B or A range to me right now. He's just kind of a middle of the pack based on expectations, and he needs to be better. Can he be better with the wrist? That's one of the major questions of the Philadelphia Phillies season. Now, he's been productive. Like, that's why it's tough to give him like a D or anything, even though he's been well below what you'd expect him to be as Bryce Harper. when you look at him, then he's still better than the average Major League Baseball player, and he's clearly been dealing with something all year. You got to laud him for that. You got to give him credit. But I can't give him any more than just a barely passing grade because so much of this team hinges on him. And then we'll just get this one in here real quick. Otto Kemp. Otto Kemp's a weird one, right? We're going with currently on the team, so he counts as this. He came up partway through the year. He's batting .247. He has 1 home run. I don't know. You know what? I'm going to give Otto Kemp a B-. And you might say, how in the world can you give Otto Kemp a better grade than Bryce Harper? Well, part of this is understanding who they are to the team and what the expectation is. Otto Kemp was a guy that was never supposed to be on this team and just tore the cover off the ball at the AAA level that forced the hand of the Philadelphia Phillies to put him up here. He has not only played first base, he's played third base, he's played left field. Third base, natural position for him. He wasn't really that good over there. First base, not a natural position, basically learning it more on the fly at the major league level. Left field, totally not a natural position, learning it entirely on the fly at the major league level. And all the time, the kid's not doing anything that kills the baseball team, right? He's out there putting together solid at-bats. You'd like to see more pop. You'd like to see higher average. But if you're relying on Otto Kemp, that's already a point to Harper, Schwarber, Turner, Romuto, Castellanos, Boehm, those guys, right? And we'll talk about the rest of those guys that we haven't mentioned later on in the episode. But Kemp, I'm going to go ahead and give a B- because he hasn't killed you in the field. He has played a tough, versatile role with the Philadelphia Phillies since he's come up. And he's had some big-time hits in spots where it seems like the rest of this highly paid lineup has not been able to come through. So I'm going to give some props to the kid. Now, I don't think he's going to be the difference in where this team goes in the postseason. But I think for what you could have rightfully expected for a player coming up in the situation that he was in, Otto Kemp has delivered for the Philadelphia Phillies. He's not a big piece of the puzzle, but he has filled his role since coming up and done more than some people could have expected when it comes to the positional versatility. So I'm going to give him that B-. The guy that we go to next, he might get one of the highest grades of guys you don't expect to get one of the highest grades. But is it fair? Or is he falling under a category that we use with another sports team in this town and another position that is highly scrutinized? We'll talk about Edmundo Sosa coming up next as we continue today's episode of Locked On Phillies. Let's talk about Monarch money first, though, because have you ever wished that managing your money felt easier? Of course, we all have. And with Monarch money, it can. Whether you're growing your savings or planning a big purchase, Monarch puts you in the driver's seat. It's like having your own personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money is more than a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending all in one place. So in addition to managing your money, you're also building wealth. And the great thing about Monarch Money, right, is it will catch all of the things that fall through the cracks, like how much you're spending on takeout, subscriptions you have on services you haven't used in a year, all of that stuff. They add up. If you're not catching the ones you're not using, then you think, hey, $5 here, $10 here. Next thing you know, you're out $300 in a year that you could have in your pocket. That's important. Every little cent that you can save counts, especially when you're just throwing it away for nothing. And Monarch Money can help you with that, along with numerous other things, like helping manage money with your partner if you have joint accounts, and making sure that you know how you can make your money work for you and not just sit there and wait to be spent. So take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONMLB at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONMLB for half off your first year. Check them out. It's monarchmoney.com. All right, let's continue with our breakdown of the Philadelphia Phillies position player first half grades. We've gotten through Otto Kemp, and next up is Edmundo Sosa. Now, Sosa is such a weird guy to evaluate because of so many factors, right? Like, I want to give him an A+. And I'm sure there are Phillies fans out there, they're like, Sosa? Yeah, I love that guy. But is it the whole backup quarterback thing? You know how they always say that, right? If you're a football fan, you know. The most popular guy on a football team is the backup quarterback because everyone scrutinizes the starter. And the backup makes no mistakes. They just stand there. The potential of what they could be is always safer than the guy who's out there that has to deal with the actual ups and downs of playing the game, right? You can always convince yourself that the guy you haven't seen play could be good. So Edmundo Sosa kind of gets this idea of like, oh, he's this bench player, but could he play every day? If he played every day, what would his numbers look like? And such a tough thing to say. What I do know is Edmundo Sosa has been in a reserve role for this team, has been an incredibly valuable utility infielder that is batting .278 on the year with 21 RBIs, 3 bombs, in only 133 at-bats. This is a dude that could have the highest growth in impact in the second half of the Phillies season, because we're going to talk about Bryson Stott later. Bryson Stott's grade is not going to be good. And there are a lot of people questioning whether or not he should play second base regularly or at all. Now, I'm not ready to give up on Bryson Stott. We'll talk about that in his evaluation. But if Sosa becomes a regular second baseman for this team, that is opening up the trajectory for him to be an important piece of the puzzle for this team in October. But all I can evaluate is what he's done so far. And while I can't go out and say, oh, A-plus best player on the team, because he hasn't gotten that many opportunities compared to some of the other big-name guys, it feels like every single time he plays, he's just making the right plays. Now, if you had to ask me, Edmundo Sosa, over 162 games, playing pretty much every day at second base, would he be a .278 hitter? Would these numbers track? I don't know. I don't think so. I trust the Phillies' evaluation of that. I trust Major League Baseball's evaluation of that. Like, I trust the idea that he is probably one of these fringe starter players that would probably start on, like, I don't know, 10 teams in baseball, but not the other 20, 15 teams in baseball, but not the other 15. And maybe the Phillies become one of those teams if Stott continues to struggle. I'm not talking down on Sosa. I'm giving him an A, right? But I just can't get into the A-plus category, right? I can't. He is one of my favorite Phillies. He does his job more consistently, more effectively than pretty much anybody else on this team. But how much do we overvalue him when we talk about him being an everyday player? It's kind of one of those you don't know until you see it, and we may see it in the latter part of this season. But Sosa's had a great year. Everybody loves Edmundo Sosa. He may be like one of the most universally beloved players on the team, if not the most, right? He is up there. And when we're talking about guys that are not the stars, he's number one. Bryson Stott just so happens to be the next guy that we're going to talk about. And he's batting .234 with 6 home runs and 38 RBIs. Bryson. What do you even say about this guy? His future's on the line with the Philadelphia Phillies. Make no mistake, in this post-All-Star break portion of the schedule. Because if the roster is heavily shaken up because things do not go well in October this year, he could be one of the casualties. I know you say, well, he's under team control, Connor. Why would they move on from him? He just hasn't hit. They tried him at leadoff. For a couple of weeks, he was incredible. But then he just absolutely fell off the face of the earth. And I don't know what's going on with Bryson Stott. He doesn't seem to be putting together as good of at-bats as he has, even though he does still have a solid approach to the plate. He's just not coming through. And it's his second straight year of, hey, man, where are these numbers? You're supposed to be this really good contact hitter. You're batting .234. That doesn't help us. And a great glove at second base only gets you so far. He's going to have to hit. And if he doesn't, well, we just talked about Sosa, who's batting in the 270s. Also solid glove. You can put him out there at second. Stott hasn't been able to hit lefties either. There's these deficiencies in Bryson Stott's game are growing and growing and growing in negative impact year over year, it feels like. And if that continues to be the case, what do you do with the guy going forward? He's basically playing for his right to continue to play second base for the Phillies. And he's already in a platoon situation with Edmundo Sosa, in my opinion. So Bryson Stott, I'm going to give him a D+, right? I can't go lower than that because the glove has still been really good. And he has had some big swings, and .234 is not 170-something like Rafael Marchand's hitting. But at the same time, the expectations for Stott are much higher. So Bryson Stott is going to have to pick it up in the latter half of the season if he wants to see his playing time this year stay where it is, and if he wants to be able to have playing time next year or even be with the team next year. That's a sneaky storyline that we're going to have an eye on if things don't go right in October. How much grace will this fan base give to Bryson Stott? But he has not had a good year. Again, remember, as I run through these breakdowns of letter grades, let me know in the comments if any of these seem way off. Hey, Connor, you said this player was a C grade. I think he's been a B plus. I think he's been an A minus. You're way undervaluing or you're way overvaluing certain players. Let me know. I'd love to have those talks with you in the comments. This next one is easy, and y'all aren't going to like it. Some of you are. The fan base is very divided on this player. But Trey Turner is our final infielder, and we'll round out with the outfielders as we finish position players coming up in just a little bit. But Trey Turner's batting .289 this year. He's leading the National League in hits. He has 11 home runs, 40 RBIs. He's played a better shortstop. He's got 24 stolen bases. He has been one of the better players on this team, the most consistent bat in the National League. He is having an unbelievable year. If you're not on the Trey Turner train right now, you're just hating. I'm sorry. You're just hating. And I get it. Listen, stick to your guns, because I've had opinions on players being good, and then they played bad. And I've said, I still think they're going to be good. You can stick on the bad side of Trey Turner. After the first year he had, a lot of people were like, this guy stinks. I'm never coming around on him. And I get it. I think it's hasty. It's not how I do it, but I get where that came from for people. But if you honestly evaluate Trey Turner this year, he has been one of, if not the Phillies' best bats. He is getting an A minus. The only reason he's not getting better than that is because the defense, I still would like to see improve. The power, I would like to see be a little bit more, but I'm nitpicking here. He's had an awesome year. He's a huge piece of the puzzle. He's one of the more valuable players in the National League. How he wasn't an all-star, I have no damn idea. But Trey Turner is an A grade. Now, he's an A minus to me, but I'm saying if you have him as anything other than A minus, A, or A plus, you are flat out wrong on this one, and you just don't like Trey Turner. And if you don't like him, that's your prerogative, and go for it. But he's having a great year for the Phillies. This may be where the great years for the Phillies end, because we're going to talk about the outfield coming up next. And my God, have they been just a black hole of lack of production. But are there guys that could get better? And are there guys that need to go? We will talk about that as we wrap up today's episode of Locked On Phillies. Let's talk about Supply House first, because you got to get the supplies you need from the site made for the skilled trades. Supply House. Whether you're in plumbing, HVAC, or electrical work, Supply House is the reliable way to order products online. Their easy-to-use website is packed with helpful resources and the latest product info to help you get the job done right. Plus, with a complete inventory of over 200,000 parts from 400-plus top brands, you're going to find exactly what you need, delivered fast from coast to coast. Maybe you need help with an order. Well, Supply House offers expert support and industry-leading service, so you're always going to talk to a real person. And for trade pros looking for an extra edge, their free Trade Master program offers exclusive perks like a dedicated phone line, free shipping, and discounts on every order. Thousands of skilled professionals are already taking advantage, and now it's your turn. So join the Trade Master program today at supplyhouse.com/TM and start ordering plumbing, HVAC, and electrical supplies with just a few clicks. Plus, use promo code SH5, and you'll even get 5% off your first order. That's supplyhouse.com. One more time, I'll give it to you. Supplyhouse.com. Buckle up, folks. It's time to dip into the outfield. We finished up the infielders portion of our position player evaluations. Remember, our next episode will be pitcher evaluations. Every pitcher currently on the roster, yes, that includes bullpen. Yes, that is going to be a much harsher grading scale than some of these position players have got. So for anybody who says, well, I'd rather see them add to the lineup than the bullpen, buckle up, because I'm going to make my case in letter grades over this episode and next episode why the pitching staff has been in a much worse spot when you look at the bullpen, and the rotation does a lot of covering up. But the outfield, they have not been doing a lot of covering up of anything, though they've been rough. So let's jump into the letter grades for them, starting with Nick Castellanos, the first guy here listed on MLB.com. And Casty, oh, man, he's going to go down as one of these Phillies when his career is over. That's just like, I don't even know how he'll be remembered in Phillies history, right? I normally have a pretty good idea of how the fan base feels about a guy. I don't know in 10 years what Nick Castellanos is going to be. I don't. Now, if they win the World Series, he'll be a legend. But even if they, make a run at this thing and come up short this year, he's had productive seasons more often than not in Philadelphia. but he just doesn't get the love. He's batting 273 this year with 12 homers, 51 RBIs. He's having another nice year, and he's been your best outfielder, like that actually plays outfield. Kyle Schwarber's going to be in here too. We know he's a DH, but he just doesn't get the love, man. People try and trade him. People want to get rid of him. People get annoyed when he strikes out, even though the numbers even out to him being a pretty darn good baseball player for this team. He's been clutch in the postseason, and this city and Nick Castellanos just never really feel like they've jived. But if I'm just evaluating the baseball player on what he's done for this team, I'm going to have to give him, I'll just give him a B, right? It's not an all-star year for Nick Castellanos. It's not his best year as a Philly, but he's done what they needed him to do and more for his spot in the outfield. He's been available when he's not yelling at the manager about defensive replacements. The defense could always be better, but we know that about Nick Castellanos' game. You're not expecting him to be Rojas out there in right field. He is what he is. He's an above-average major league right fielder who helps this team win more than he hurts this team. That's Nick Castellanos. We will see if he heats up in October. But if he just gives you what he's been giving you all year, you can win a World Series with Nick Castellanos as your right fielder. You can. Can you win the World Series with this next guy as your left fielder? Yeah. I don't know, folks. Max Kepler's next up. We were talking about Bryson Stott at 234. Like, is this guy going to play second base for this team going forward? Kepler's batting 210. Now, he does have 10 homers, right? So you look at that and you say he has shown off a little bit of the pop, but that's not remotely enough to make up for a 210 average and only 31 RBIs in 272 at-bats. He doesn't have a stolen base. His OPS is 678, which is not bad, but the home runs are carrying a lot of that. I mean, it's not great either because he's not walking but you'd expect it to be lower. All I mean is for a guy batting 210. So he has shown a little bit of pop. I'm trying my hardest to find upsides in Max Kepler's game. Defensively, he's been as solid as you could have hoped in left field. But let's be real. Anyone giving Max Kepler more than a grade that's in the letter D is crazy. I'm not ready to give him an F, right? I'm not ready to say flat out fail. Now, you can give Dombrowski an F for signing Max Kepler just on that one move alone. But the player himself, I'm going to give a D-. I'm going to give him a little bit above failing grade because I do think there have been a couple of games where he's contributed to the Phillies' success. But largely, man, he ain't getting the job done. He's complaining about playing time. If they move on from Max Kepler at the deadline or if they DFA him, I will not shed a tear. Now, do I think he needs to be on this team as currently constructed? Yes. And part of that reason is they've showed they're not calling up Crawford right now. They don't have enough outfielders around when we go through these other guys to show you. It's not like there's this great player that's up on the major league roster that's not playing because of Max Kepler. And I don't believe that if he leaves this team via waiving him, that will lead to Justin Crawford immediately being called up. So I don't think he's blocking somebody. So your outfield's just so bad. You kind of still need him because he is a major league player over the course of his career. But Max Kepler has been flat out terrible this year for the Philadelphia Phillies. And if he gets the chance to improve, he has to. We'll see if he gets that chance. I think he could be gone in the relatively near future. Brandon Marsh, batting 259, 3 homers, 21 RBIs. Very similar to Alec Boehm, right? He's like Boehm light, where he had a terrible, terrible start to the year. He's been on a red-hot heater lately. We'll see what he's doing post-All-Star break if he comes back and he continues to swing the bat well. He has not been good defensively, at least based on what his skill level should be, based on the physical tools, right? So he's been about what I think the Phillies think he is as a major league hitter, right? 250, 260. Hasn't showed off the pop as much, so that knocks him some points. I'm going to give him a C-. He would have been in the D- category with Max Kepler if you had asked me this question at the start of June. But since the start of June, just like JT Realmuto, just like Alec Boehm, he's been starting to swing it a little bit. So he gets a C-. He's below average, but he has made something of himself. I would not be upset at Brandon Marsh being a bench piece for this team going forward the rest of the year. Now, would I be upset if he's your post-trade deadline starting center fielder? I could get upset at that, right? I could be disappointed with that. So he needs to continue to improve. He has not given the Phillies what they've been looking for, but I'm going to give him a C-, like a barely passing grade for the Philadelphia Phillies when it comes to where he's been this year and all things all encompassing. If you want to give him a D plus, maybe I wouldn't fight you on that. But I'm going to be a little bit kinder because I think he's really swung the bat well lately. I think he gets unfairly evaluated for a bad stretch to start the season. And he's been good. He does more positively for this team over the past 2 months, I would say. Yohan Rojas is another one that'll probably be in that C- range, right? He just say the same things about Brandon Marsh, pretty much. He's had a bad stretch. He's batting .230. He's about what you expected him to be as a major league hitter. Defensively, he's had some lapses. He's been better than Marsh, but he hasn't been as good as you expect him to be. 1 home run, 15 RBIs. I mean, I don't know. They're essentially the same guy, just flip-flop sides, right? Not hitting as well as they should, not fielding as well as they should, defense first, not really offensive players, not really living up to expectations. You can't have 2 C- guys platooning at the same position. That's the mess. So Rojas has been, I guess, slightly disappointing this year. Marsh has been slightly disappointing this year. And their expectations this year have already been lowered because of how they've been slightly disappointing in previous years, which is why I want to see center field improved. And then finally, we'll talk about Kyle Schwarber, the DH, who is the easiest guy to evaluate. He is the Phillies' only participating All-Star. He just won All-Star Game MVP. He does not get an A-plus because I am a tough grader, and I don't know that anybody has had an A-plus first half. Like, no one is. That's reserved for top of the league at your position or MVP candidate. But he gets an A. He's mashing lefties. He's got 30 homers. He won All-Star Game MVP. He's had an awesome year. He's going to cost the Phillies a lot of money if they bring him back. I have very few complaints about Kyle Schwarber. In a bit of a cold stretch right now, I don't worry about him. He is just he's the perfect major league power hitter for 2025. So there you have it. My breakdown of the evaluation of all of the position players currently on the Phillies roster. Tomorrow, we do pitchers. But let me know in the comments again if I've nailed that. More often than not, I'm looking at guys in the C or D range, especially when it comes to the outfield, and that's not good. But remember, I said the Phillies have underachieved as a team based on their expectations, and they're still in a pretty darn good spot based on where their peers are. The pitching, it's going to look even worse. The position players were kind of like middle of the road. The pitchers are going to be, if you look at the bullpen, rough. So we'll get into that on the next episode. But thank you so much for joining us once again. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Please make sure you're rating, reviewing, subscribing to the YouTube, all that great stuff that really helps us out. And I will talk to you later on our next episode of Locked On Phillies.